This week's episode is brought to you by Tasha Mendolia, The Blonde Diablo, Cryptic Chronicles, and Soulbot 9. Thank you, Tasha Mendolia, The Blonde Diablo, Cryptic Chronicles, and Soulbot 9. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that keeps the underground mausoleum full of tantric laser mummies properly desiccated with the right blends of herbs, spices, and organic preservatives, and using them to reprogram the subtle astral matrix to subterfuge the reptilian nightmare containment field so our deeply embedded network of rabbit spies can continue to bring the Black Iron Prison one step closer to total destruction. If you would like to break out of the temporal boundaries of incarnate limitation, or just hear the second half of this episode, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you immediate access to this episode in its extended, uncut format, but all of our extended episodes in convenient RSS feed format compatible with your podcast player of choice. But that's not all. I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality gourmet vinyl sticker of our cover art and members-only access to our Discord server, where it's safe to talk about subjects that would immediately make your coworkers think you're nuts. If you enjoy the free show, but spent all your money on that new Legend of Zelda game, please consider giving us a like, subscribe, or even a share on your social media platform of choice. Special thanks to Cody Ray George for continuing to upgrade our theme music as we regenerate through the aeons. Check out his latest novella, Goodnight Room 9, wherever books are sold. On this week's episode, we explore the many interconnected issues of raising the dead from history, horror, and religion. In the free section of the show, we discuss the importance of raising the dead in Christianity, Islam, and even Buddhism. We explore the holy visions of Saint Bernadette, the miracles still attributed to her, and the strange things the church found when they exhumed her body. Even the Soviets are not safe from this discussion. In the extended show, we discuss the wild hunt, Haitian Voodoo Zombies, what happens to the body after death, the long list of zombie-inducing drugs, illnesses, poisons, and what it means to run amok. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Technically, The Crow is a zombie movie, right?
I would say yes.
I would agree.
Well, that's got to be my favorite zombie movie, now that I think about it.
But the Crow is a magical zombie.
This is true. He can't die. He's pretty invincible. He's got powers. The spirit of vengeance.
Do you think if the real Brandon Lee were to resurrect from the dead, he would be just as amazing at martial arts as he was when he was alive?
Is he a magic zombie?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, if he is a magic zombie, he would.
Yeah, I agree.
So you could have kung fu zombies, you could have tac fire training zombies, you could even have geneticist zombies that could probably cure themselves. You could resurrect the whole Manhattan Project and have zombies build you a nuke. How come nobody's thought of doing that yet?
Oh, you could bring back Reagan and have him run again. That'd be awesome. Let's do it.
Zombie Reagan, 2024. Who are we kidding? We already have a zombie for president.
Oh. Well, he actually did get his skull opened up and they had to do brain surgery on him after an aneurysm.
Sure, that's what it was for.
Maybe that's why he's always sniffing children. Maybe he's secretly hungry.
He could smell the brains behind their ears. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just venerate the mummified remains of great spiritual teachers hundreds of years after they've turned themselves into mystic human jerky. Nay, we don the mighty man parts of Rasputin, poison from a pufferfish, chloroform, some bath salts, and secret Soviet state magic to make Vladimir Lenin's perfectly preserved corpse rise again to lead the proletariat horde into a brave new world. Because this week, we're discussing the raising of the dead, as seen in the Bible, Buddhism, blasphemous bewitchments, beguiling blends, and of course, brain parasites. I'm joined this week by co-hosts, the cadaverous canine, Mari-sama.
Boof, boof, fear me.
The mad revenant reanimator, Malachor 5.
Rise from the dark realms, dear listener, rise.
And the rainbow-bodied babe, Heka Astra.
Hello.
You know, there's a weird headcanon that I have going on at all times, and I suggested the topic of zombies for this episode because all the bosses in the main House of the Dead games are all named and based off of the major arcana of the tarot.
I don't think I've ever played House of the Dead.
Oh my god, they're so fun.
Are those the arcade games?
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a plastic pistol and could shoot zombies and stuff.
Oh, those are fun.
Okay, I have played that then.
Yeah. Yeah, House of the Dead 2 kicks ass. They added the right stuff in it. It was like during the early 2000s Dreamcast era. Great times.
For some reason, I'm fine with arcade shooters.
Because you're on a rail. I love rail shooters.
Yeah, you can even mess up and accidentally shoot the hostages.
No witnesses.
But there's actually zombies across history in prominent ways, if you think about it.
And as we'll discover, the raising of the dead is an all-important aspect of almost every major religion on the planet. Arguably, and without question, the most famous instance of rising from the dead would pertain to the Christian belief of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Traditionally, next to being a blood sacrifice meant to pay off the collective debt of humanity's sins, the subsequent resurrection of Christ from the dead serves as the central doctrine of the entire faith. To the chagrin of many fence-sitters, these aspects of Christian doctrine take primacy over even the words and miracles that Christ is said to perform during his ministry. Part and parcel to this idea is that while Jesus Christ is understood to be the literal Son of God, and by extension, one with God himself, he was not only born of woman, suffered and died, but resurrected and assumed into heaven, all with a human body. Further still, the blood of Christ is seen as the all-important ingredient in the redemption of the soul and is even imbibed ritually during the Eucharist through the miracle of transubstantiation. This idea is expressed most explicitly in John 6:50 through 53, and even goes as far as saying that those who do not consume Christ's flesh may as well be zombies.
Bible time with Mari. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. The Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. Damn, some cannibal shit.
Yum.
Yeah, I always thought this was weird, like growing up in church. And like Catholics take it to another extreme. Like you mentioned, the transubstantiation. They believe that it literally turns into blood and flesh once it hits your stomach.
Yeah, you actually have to eat the flesh and drink the blood of the lamb for your sins to be atoned.
So all that is suggesting that we're supposed to be mass resurrected at some point?
Yes. In the letters of Paul the Apostle, 1 Corinthians 15, the rising of the dead and resurrection of Jesus Christ are inextricably linked.
Now, if Christ be preached that he rose from the dead, how say some among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there be no resurrection of the dead, then is Christ not risen? And if Christ be not risen, then is our preaching vain, and your faith is also vain. Yea, and we are found a false witness of God, because we have testified of God that he raised up Christ, whom he raised not up, if so be that the dead rise not. For if the dead rise not, then is not Christ raised. And if Christ be not raised, your faith is vain, ye are yet in your sins.
So Paul is saying, if you don't believe in the rising of the dead, you don't believe in Christ, then you're not really Christians. End of story. A similar sentiment regarding the raising of the dead is also found in the Islamic Quran, as stated in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 28.
How can you disbelieve in Allah, seeing that you were dead and he gave you life? Then he will give you death, then again will bring you to life on the day of resurrection, and then unto him you will return.
Running parallel to the concept of mass resurrection, Romans 12 and 1 Corinthians 12 conceptualize the faithful and Christ as being composed of a single body. Romans 12, 4 through 5 says,
For as in one body we have many members, and not all the members have the same function. So we who are many are one body in Christ, and individually we are members of one another.
According to apostolic tradition, this concept is known as the communion of saints, which holds that all saints and faithful, both living and dead, are part of one body, with Christ serving as the head. This idea being, if Christ was resurrected from the dead and scheduled to return, so are all of his followers. Taken together, the raising of the dead and communion of the saints can help us understand the gruesome tradition of the Roman Catholic Church preserving body parts of dead saints and venerating them publicly as holy relics, a practice entirely absent in the Muslim world. Conceptually speaking, to possess an intact body part of a deceased be saint is also to possess, in extension, a piece of Christ's body that will one day be resurrected to its full glory.
I think it's also kind of interesting that it's not just Jesus in the Bible that was resurrected, but Jesus also resurrected Lazarus, for example. So Lazarus is also kind of a zombie or raised dead.
Oh, yeah.
So Jesus is both kind of necromancer and zombie?
He's a lich.
Yes, he is technically a lich, but we will get to that.
And there's some other strange traits that come with this holy ability to resurrect or be preserved, correct?
Yes. In furtherance of this notion, when a body relic refuses to decompose, it is thought to be indicative of a closeness to Christ's life-giving power, the same one which will sustain the soul of the believer in death and restore the body to health and vitality on Judgment Day. This concept is known as incorruptibility. In the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox tradition, it is believed to be an indicator of holiness on behalf of the deceased. Incorruptibility is seen as distinct from good preservation of the body or from mummification. Incorruptible bodies are often said to have what is called the odor of sanctity. They exude a sweet, pleasant, or floral aroma.
Well, that sounds kind of nice.
Yeah, if you're really close with Jesus, when you die, your corpse juices will smell pleasant. You might not even have juices. One of the most famous examples of incorruptibility is of Saint Bernadette Soubirous, a French peasant girl who at the age of 14 began having visions of a beautiful young woman in a grotto near her hometown of Lourdes in 1858. The apparition, revealing itself as the Immaculate Conception, asked Saint Bernadette to both pray vigorously for the conversion and redemption of sinners, and secondly, to establish a chapel in the grotto. The apparition was said to have appeared clothed in white with a blue sash and gold roses upon her feet. During one vision, Saint Bernadette was asked to dig into the ground in the grotto, and when she did, she found a bubbling spring. This same bubbling spring is thought to cure illnesses and disabilities after drinking or bathing in it. In fact, in the 160 years since Saint Bernadette dug up this spring, at least 70 miraculous cures have been confirmed by the Lourdes Medical Bureau to be inexplicable after what the Roman Catholic Church says were extremely rigorous scientific and medical examinations. They failed to turn up any other explanation for what could have happened besides it being a miracle. A number of these confirmed cases extend well into the 2000s. So even in the modern era, they've looked into like, why does this spring cure people? And it has like some minerals in it, but they're still not sure. It just appears to be a miracle. Some people get like better very quickly after drinking this, like all different sorts of disabilities.
Right, which is somewhat close to being like an undead. It's just that you haven't died, but you're like rejuvenating yourself in a way. You're bringing back some health or some vitality. So kind of makes sense.
In the Gospels of Thomas, Christ refers to himself as a bubbling spring. He asks everyone, hey, what am I like? And they give him all these different answers. He's like, I'm basically tending a bubbling spring. That's what I'm doing. Now, Saint Bernadette, tired of being a public spectacle, retired to a hospice school in Nevers where she learned to read and write. Once, when asked about the visions, she replied, the Virgin used me as a broom to remove the dust. When the work is done, the broom is put behind the door again. Sadly, like many other cases of this sort, Saint Bernadette lived a relatively short, painful, but pious life, suffering an early death of chronic tuberculosis at age 35. Her final words,
Blessed Mary, Mother of God, pray for me.
Afterwards, her body was laid to rest in the St. Gildard convent in April of 1879. Later, when church authorities exhumed her body the first time in 1909, they claimed that although the crucifix in her hand and the rosary had both oxidized, her body appeared incorrupt, preserved from all decomposition. These were seen as miracles and used to support her canonization. Her body was then washed, reclothed, and buried again in a new double casket. On April the 3rd, 1919, the church exhumed the corpse a second time once she had been approved for canonization. The doctor who performed the examination, Dr. Comte, noted, the body is practically mummified, covered with patches of mildew and quite a notable layer of salts, which appear to be calcium salts. The skin has disappeared in some places, but is still present on most parts of the body. The church then exhumed Saint Bernadette for a third time in 1925 to take relics, photographs, and prepare a wax mask for the face and hands meant to obscure a blackened tinge on the skin and the gradual sinking of the eyes, which authorities feared that the French rabble would interpret as corruption.
I mean, give her a break.
This picture that's in the show notes that you've included, is this how long after the first first exhumation, or how long after her death is this picture?
I'm doing math.
Is this the third time?
46 years.
So she died in 1879?
Yes, so about 46 years.
Wow. That's amazing. She just looks like she's sleeping.
That looks fresh.
3 years later, in 1928, Dr. Comte published a report of the exhumation of Saint Bernadette in the second issue of the Bulletin de la Association Médicale de Notre Dame de Lourdes.
So in it, he says, I would like to open the left side of the thorax to take the ribs as relics and then remove the heart, which I am certain must have survived. However, as the trunk was slightly supported on the left arm, it would have been rather difficult to try and get at the heart without doing so much noticeable damage. As the Mother Superior had expressed a desire for the saint's heart to be kept together with the whole body, and as Monsignor and the bishop did not insist, I gave up the idea of opening the left-hand side of the thorax and contented myself with removing the two right ribs, which were more accessible. What struck me during this examination, of course, was that the state of the perfect preservation of the skeleton and the fibrous tissues of the muscles still supple and firm, of the ligaments and of the skin, and above all, the totally unexpected state of the liver after 46 years. One would have thought that this organ, which basically is soft and inclined to crumble, would have decomposed very rapidly or would have hardened into a chalky consistency. Yet when it was cut, it was soft and almost normal in consistency. I pointed this out to those present, remarking that this did not seem to be a natural phenomenon.
Dude just sounds like he went digging around a little bit.
That's because he
But,
did.
he's like, I'll just take 2 ribs then. Oh, hey, how's the liver doing?
What a creep.
He went poking around in there to see if she was still supple and fresh. I thought it was interesting. They're like, we got to get at her heart. We got to put this in a reliquary somewhere. And like, they argued over if they wanted to cut into her cavity anymore. Like, they clearly did and found that her liver was squishy.
They were like, let's check all the ancient Egyptian stuff in the basement.
That is quite remarkable, though.
It truly is.
It says to leave the heart. No touchy the heart.
So if you were so pious, a Catholic, that you become incorruptible, there is a very good chance that some Vatican doctor will go splitting open your rib cage to go looking around for your organs to put them on an altar somewhere. That is within the realm of possibility, just remember. So while other intact bodies are venerated, most body relics come with some assembly required. Prominent examples include the finger of St. Thomas. Now, the finger of the Apostle Thomas, he was the one who famously doubted the resurrection of Jesus until he physically fingered the wound on Christ's body. While some sources claim the finger is housed in the titular Roman basilica, known as the Basilica of the Holy Cross of Jerusalem, another finger of St. Thomas is said to have been moved to northern Iraq into the monastery of St. Matthew, one of the oldest Christian monasteries on earth, following the fall of Mosul in 2014 at the hands of Daesh, where it was formerly housed in the Church of St. Thomas.
You guys ever hear of the holy foreskin of Jesus?
Yep.
I've heard that his foreskin is sometimes considered the first blood sacrifice of Christ, which leads me to suspect that at some point, somebody just ate it.
Ooh. Nasty.
If you were that devout and you felt that you held in your hands the actual blood and flesh of Christ, there's a chance you could just pop it in there like a lifesaver real quick. Other prominent examples include the holy umbilical cord.
They saved it.
Supposedly. And it's said to be in a reliquary in the Basilica of St. Maria Maggiore in Rome.
And then there's the head of St. John the Baptist, and there was like multiple heads. And I think even to this day, there's claims that, a certain head in various churches are the real one, but nobody kind of knows, right?
Yeah, nobody's sure if it's the real one. One source here says it's the Church of San Silvestro in Rome. There's also the hand of St. Teresa of Avila and the tongue of St. Anthony of Padua. Now, the tongue of St. Anthony of Padua, a 13th century Franciscan friar, they believe they found his tongue when they were excavating one of the basement storages of one of these old basilicas, and they found what they believed to be the grave of St. Anthony of Padua, but his lower jaw and tongue were perfectly preserved. So they put it in a reliquary, and you can still see it, the lower bottom of the jaw. It's in the Basilica of St. Anthony Padua in Italy.
Just the tongue?
Well, you can really see the lower jaw with all of its teeth, and then the tongue is sitting in it.
One day the Dalai Lama's tongue might be in a museum.
Suck my tongue.
Boy, gross.
Suck it. Blech.
Speaking of Buddhism, a surprisingly similar idea to the veneration of saintly remains also exists in the religion of Buddhism. Often, body relics are referred to as sarira, which means body, but on occasion, this word may also apply to Buddhist teachings themselves, similar to ideas in Catholicism, the teachings being considered one with the body of Buddha. The word dhatu is a more specific terminology referring to body relics. Sometimes sarira refers to a body relic similar to the incorruptibles of Catholicism, like a finger bone or a preserved body, but without qualification, sarira often refers to curious, rare pearl-like stones found in the cremated ashes of sufficiently advanced spiritual masters. Much like the incorruptibility of a saint's body, discovering a sarira or datu in the cremated remains of a master is not guaranteed, and similarly considered miraculous. The quality and luster of the sarira is thought to be emblematic of the level of spiritual purity attained by the master, and is thought to radiate the unique mind flow of the master it once belonged to. Like Catholic body relics, they are often stored in small reliquaries, sometimes a glass bowl, and might be adorned with threads of saffron as offerings. According to myth, depending on how they are kept and the thoughts of the person who keeps them, it can encourage the sarira to miraculously multiply or alternatively disappear. Some tales tell of pearly sarira falling like rain during the burial of various monks or holy people. Often sarira are kept in stupas, which are small buildings or monuments intended to house these relics and serve as a place for visitors to offer veneration, which traditionally involves circumambulation clockwise at least once around the monument. Buddhist stupas usually have a bulbous round section, but may take unique forms and are always made as freestanding structures. Originally designed to house the relics of the Buddha himself, they also now include the relics of monks, masters, and even sacred texts, as mentioned in some cases, serving as the Buddhist holy sites. The most prominent is known as the Great Stupa Asanchi, which is thought to hold the remains of the Buddha himself. Although some of the Buddha's parts and ashes are spread to multiple different stupas, just the majority of them are at the one in Sanchi. Many Buddhist stupas, around 84,000 of them, were spread throughout the east by King Ashoka of the Mauryan Empire between 268 BCE and 232 BCE following his conversion. A great number of these stupas still exist in one form or another today and are thought to be the reason Buddhism proliferated as a great world religion. I thought that was a fun tie-in to Star Wars. They had a King Ashoka, and it was this king who they credit with, like, he didn't send out all these ashes and relics and establish these thousands, tens of thousands of stupas, it's possible Buddhism might not have gotten as popular as it was. And then if we look over to the Catholic world, maybe they're just taking notes.
Did you notice how those Buddhists put dead bodies everywhere and got those many followers? Maybe we should do the same with ours.
According to Wikipedia, there's evidence that under certain conditions of heating, human bones can form crystalline structures. In one chemical analysis, sariras were found to be composed of constituent elements of both bones and stones.
Dang, that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Then there's the curious case of Soko Shinbutsu, my new favorite word. In the sacred mountains of northern Japan exists a secret, forbidden practice only performed by the most spiritually advanced renunciates. It is known as Soko Shinbutsu. The practice is mythologized to have been initiated by Kukai, the founder of Shingon esoteric Buddhism, after returning from China with advanced practices and wisdom which, without him, would have just died out. Supposedly, when he made it to China, his master greeted him like,
"Oh, I've been waiting so long for you to show up. Now I can pass on all my secrets."
Just 30 years after the death of this Chinese teacher, Emperor Wuzong of Tang, the best name of an emperor ever, and a staunch Taoist, destroyed 40,000 Buddhist temples and forced 250,000 monks out of practice, declaring them useless tax evaders.
Oh no.
They're still doing this to this day.
Apparently, esoteric Buddhism never fully recovered in China because of this, and this Chinese master was like, it's done in India too. You have to take this to Japan and make sure that the strongest stream of Buddhism still exists. And then when he got back to Japan, the emperor was like, okay, man, you are now the official Buddhist priest who does the Buddhist rituals, and your sect is the esoteric sect. And he's like, okay. Now, as Kukai neared his death, he believed that he needed to preserve his body in order to continue his spiritual work and protect his followers. That's when he began the rigorous process of self-mummification while still living, by slowly rationing down the food he took and slowly rationing down the water he drank until finally ceasing intake altogether, which would then shrink his organs and eliminate as much moisture as possible before finally dying during a prolonged meditative trance. His will, forsaking the traditional cremation, had his body sealed in a tomb on the eastern peaks of sacred Mount Koya. While his followers later opened his tomb, they found Kukai's body entirely unchanged, except for having grown a considerable amount of hair. Legend holds that Kukai never died at all, and merely entered into an advanced form of samadhi until the prophesied coming of the future Buddha or Maitreya.
That's pretty cool.
So he was also sort of waiting for the return of a Christ figure to be like resurrected.
Right. So he's supposed to come back, right? And live again.
That is what it seems to imply. Then following in his footsteps, Kukai's disciple, Monk Chicken, is said to have become self-mummified during death and is considered the first historically documented case. Chicken, arise. Arise, Chicken. 100 years later, in 1173, monk Kakukai became the first recorded person to achieve Soku Shimbutsu intentionally and is well believed to have attained enlightenment and become a living Buddha.
Nice.
The practice of Soku Shimbutsu was later perfected during the medieval period in the Three Mountains Dewa region of northern Japan, which is still a sacred site of pilgrimage for Shinto, Buddhist, and Shugundo practitioners, which at various times in Japanese history have combined and separated based on political climate. Shugendo takes a bunch of different practices from Shinto and Buddhism and then combines them into their own mixture. And it itself was even outlawed at one point, but it's the Shugendo practitioners who are the ones that actually perfected the self-mummification process. Now, achieving Soku Shimbutsu is a rigorous practice of extreme asceticism that requires 3,000 days to complete and involves a strict diet of mokuchiki, which literally means eating a tree. Swearing off normal food, like cereal, the monk is made to subsist on nothing but pine needles, resin, and seeds found in the mountains, which results in the total elimination of fat from the body prior to the cessation of all food and water. The monk would then die during a prolonged state of meditation or jhana while chanting the Nenbutsu, a mantra of the Buddha. Preserved without decay of skin or teeth, the monk, without need of further preparation or treatment, were often placed inside stupas and are still being discovered in northern Japan today, although the practice has long been made illegal.
So people just stumble upon these mummified monks?
Yes.
Do they get a new item when they find these places?
Yes. They level up. They get a new heart piece.
Oh, nice.
In some cases, it's like lightning strikes the stupa and partially destroys it, and only then are they able to get into the inner parts where the entire corpse is then found. Like, it's interred behind a wall or something. It really is secret, a lot like it is in, well, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is what the monks inside the ancient shrines are most obviously based on.
There's also another technique that they have in Buddhism that is sometimes referred to as the rainbow or the crystal body. And it's this state of being that is attainment of complete enlightenment, and it gets you out of the cycle of rebirth. And then your physical body kind of just disintegrates as your spirit seems to be like solidified in another form, in another realm perhaps, since you left the wheel of reincarnation. But it's said that it only leaves behind hair, nails, and other like dead parts of our bodies, I assume.
Or clothes, like in Star Wars. In fact, this is probably where Star Wars gets it from. When I looked into it, it's like Malcor says, when somebody breaks the wheel of reincarnation, they can sometimes spontaneously just turn into light. And apparently it's not required to break out of the wheel of samsara, but sometimes it happens. So you could be sitting there meditating and just turn into a rainbow, man.
Yeah, it's your time. They take you or something. It's like you got abducted.
That's what happened to Obi-Wan Kenobi when he was fighting Darth Vader.
Man, this sounds like a Skittles commercial.
It's like you just slash down a master and he just drops into a bunch of Skittles, and then it's just like, tasty.
Ascend the rainbow, taste the rainbow.
And then they take the rainbow Skittles and they put them at all these different altars across the country.
Oh,
You know, all this stuff about holy mummies or saints, monks, holy relics, it reminds me a lot of like it's some kind of transmittable AoE. And that comes across to me as a kind of contagion meme magic.
It's not very attractive to call it contagion magic when you're talking about dead bodies, but this is what it is.
Well, it's pretty much the exact train of thought and occult memetics behind why ancient Egyptians wanted to be buried as close to the pyramids as possible, or royal tombs. Like the idea was to piggyback off the powerful magical blessings and assistance by being within its area of effect. So you're closer to that holiness, that sacred nature.
And this makes perfect sense to us as Westerners. It's considered a great honor to be buried at Arlington or near the tomb of the unknown soldier, etc., etc. In fact, even in godless Soviet Russia, they found a reason to permanently and publicly display the body of Soviet Union founder Vladimir Lenin in a specially made mausoleum in Moscow's Red Square. Lenin's tomb, as it is known, has held the corpse of Vladimir Lenin for public display almost uninterrupted since his death in 1924. There was a moment in World War II where they were a bit worried the Germans would take over Red Square, so they moved it to Siberia for a little while. Out of the way, we must get the proletariat leader on ice and move him to Siberia. Quickly, quickly, move! Originally constructed of wood, Alexei Shultsev began construction of a new mausoleum made out of granite, marble, and labradorite when mold was found on the walls of the old wooden one and even upon Lenin's body just 1 year later. Just build it right the first time, you fucking communists. Shultsev's granite structure is said to have incorporated elements from ancient mausoleums, such as the Step Pyramid, the tombs of Cyrus the Great, and to some degree, the Temple of the Inscriptions. Putin says there are no plans on changing this arrangement anytime soon. His embalmers even mentioned that working on the body of Lenin was like working on one of the old Egyptian kings, they said.
He's just radiating magical communism.
Yes, it's an expensive process. They take him out of his little mausoleum every year. They soak his body in this mixture of chemicals and dry him off and touch up his skin with chloroform and fix his appearance. And it's a big, expensive deal.
Somebody had to stuff formaldehyde-soaked cotton balls up his butt, right?
Maybe even change him every year.
I didn't know that, Hecka. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
According to rumor, a similar fate would befall the penis of Grigory Rasputin, the mad, salacious monk who is believed to have boinked the Tsarina Alexandria with it and aided in the downfall of the royal family of Russia and the nation's quick transformation into the Soviet Union, to put it nicely. Because Rasputin was infamously thrown into a river and drowned there, it's quite a bit of hearsay how a group of Russian expatriates living in France in the 1920s came into possession of the penis, using it ritualistically as an icon of worship.
What?
Yeah, there was a little...
This is so silly.
Now, when Rasputin's daughter Maria is said to have found out about it, she became infuriated and then somehow absconded with the 12-inch penis herself.
What?
Yeah, she took it back from these cultists. She's like,
No, what? You said 12 inches. No, I'm sorry. There's no way.
It's a big honker, man. Yeah, everyone said he had a big one.
There's no way. It wouldn't it have to be flaccid? It's not like if he died by drowning, his dick's not going to be hard. So even if it was actually 12 inches, they somehow made it erect?
Well, he was a horn dog in his living life. I'd imagine that if he had any magical power, he can probably give his dead body a boner.
I had to look this up. The world record is 13.5 inches.
Look, Rasputin was always hard, even when he was being killed.
I think they just cut off a horse's dick and decided that that's what it was.
So what happened? Where is this thing now?
Okay, so when Maria died, it was sold in an estate sale to an American collector named Michael Augustine for $8,000. It is now on display at St. Petersburg Museum of Erotica.
Well, that's a fitting place. That's cool.
She held on to it for the rest of her life.
Yeah, she didn't want a bunch of Russian cultists worshiping it.
Why wouldn't she burn it or something?
You can't just burn your dad's penis.
Why not?
That's weird.
As soon as you die that they're gonna just do it all over again.
What if you feel that in the afterlife? I wouldn't want to do that.
How do you write your dad's penis into your will?
Ask ISIS. I don't know.
That's true. This is somewhat similar, right, to the Osiris myth?
Oh, man.
Only that it's a penis that's missing here.
Well, it wasn't a fish who took it. It was Russian expatriates, so... Hey, that's what living under a communist regime will do to you. This brings us to zombies. In the first half of the show, we discussed how various cultures and religions around the world, including communism, venerate the bodies of holy people as if the soul of said person still resides in or around the corpse, capable of offering benefit to the living who enter into close proximity. But what happens when the opposite is true? What happens when our brains take all of these religious promises and begin to view them through the light of horror? What happens when the soul of a person is absent while the body still lives? We know them as zombies.
Bah, bah, bah.
Cue the lightning flash with the howling wolf next to the moon.
Oh,
Because if you tell people for 2,000 years at the threat of torture that they must believe in the return of the dead, otherwise they're not Christians, well, eventually it's going to erupt in the form of, fiction, and we're going to mythologize our fears about this kind of thing. And arguably that's where we could reason why zombies are just everywhere and why we love them today. So what are the types of zombies we have? Are there different sorts of zombies? Malachor?
I certainly recognize different types, and at the top of the family trees, I recognize 3 classes of them. And then in each of these classes, there's like subclasses, but I'm not going to go into that much nerd stuff.
So what are the big categories?
To start off, we got magic zombies, or you can call them black magic zombies. I personally like to call it grave calling. And these zombies, to me, are the hardest to kill, as it either requires the master or the sorcerer to be slain, or total destruction of the undead, as typically those types don't need their heads, and their individual severed parts can still try to attack you, so you have to just like destroy absolutely everything to completely stop them.
Burn the witch!
Is Thing from the Addams Family, is he maybe a zombie hand then?
Yeah, probably.
I would say so.
Yeah.
And these kind of zombies might even actually be magically buffed and immune to anything that's non-magic based damage. So like physical attacks, guns and stuff won't do anything, even fire perhaps. And in some cases, and I'm talking about like D&D lore a little bit here, a bite or wound from a magic zombie can curse or poison you. If we're talking about like real zombies in the Haitian variety that we are going to talk about later, that's not how zombieism spreads. To continue about this magic zombie, that bite of a magic zombie will turn you into a zombie when you die. It like within close proximity of the time that you got bit, and you die shortly after it and you didn't tend to your wounds or purify your body with holy magic or something. There's even an animated corpse that's featured in the Epic of Gilgamesh. So if you consider that a zombie, this would be the oldest story to feature one.
Oh, interesting. Gilgamesh has a lot of firsts.
It's kind of got everything, and that's why we have stories that just echo themes and character tropes from that story. So if we get closer to the modern era, the magic zombie was kind of like the first types that we saw in some of the fiction of the 19th century. And a lot of the times they were reanimated female corpses and common sex dolls in zombie fiction, which to me is just kind of gross.
Blech.
When we were talking about this behind the scenes, you did bring up Hellraiser.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like right on the money with the, late 19th century stories. So the next type of zombie, one of my favorite types as well, is the Stitcher zombie. And iconically, this is like Frankenstein's monster. And these can be another hard to kill type, but seems like zombification cannot spread with the Stitcher types. The zombies are sometimes amalgamations of various animals or just made up from many different human body parts. The motor functions are simply, biological, and this will cause the Stitcher zombie to have some weak spots. I'm sure the removal of the head or damage to the heart or lungs would stop this creature, though they may possess an increased resistance to damage or nullified sense of pain. For example, Frankenstein's monster felt pain, and he knew he needed to protect his own body to continue to exist. He even had to eat.
Oh.
He eats berries and stuff, and then he sees people cooking on a fire, and then he roasts his berries and nuts on the fire, and he's like, oh, the nuts taste better, but the berries don't taste as well, and then he learns how to cook meat from hunters, from watching them. But the monster in Frankenstein even displays an enormous amount of strength and stamina, which is a quality that all zombies seem to share, and it might be like their strongest trait, if you think about it, because we get tired pretty quickly if you're not constantly in shape.
Dr. Frankenstein really knew what he was doing.
He read Agrippa.
Oh, that explains it.
And he went to college. So the third and final type is what I like to call the biozombie. And this is in reference to Resident Evil's Japanese title, Biohazard. And we can commonly call this type of zombie the infected type. We all probably know about these infected types from video games and modern movies. And these can be anything from a virus or a bacteria to fungus. And for me, at first, it was a little bit silly to put them into the zombie category since they never have to die. They just get infected and evolve into a new state. But some of my research and meditations on this topic brings up the point that these infected have no free will and are violently impulsive. They don't have control over that. So in that sense, I can agree that the bio-zombies are worthy of the name. The unlimited stamina is frightening when the runner zombie subtype is brought up, as classically at first the zombies were dull or slow by nature.
Yeah, runner zombies developed quite a bit during like our lifetimes. That wasn't a classic motif of the zombie.
Apparently it was 28 days later that did it first.
That's crazy.
That was the first time I saw running zombies.
Well, researching this, I found out the heyday, the peak, the golden era of zombies was like when I was in college and all these video games were coming out, all these movies were coming out. I remember feeling like at the time it was just a throwback to a classic era, but apparently that was the classic era. We lived through it.
Oh man, there was so much stuff. Like, I remember there were like zombie survival guides for the apocalypse books everywhere, and like board games and shit. Everything was zombie then.
Now, because of this craze, biozombies are the one our culture is most familiar with. It's thought to correspond to humanity's anxieties about science, corporate irresponsibility, and more recently, humanity's relationship to nature. A source from PBS suggested that biozombies really rose to prominence in the wake of the first Resident Evil game on PlayStation, which released close in time sequence to the Om Shinrikyo cult's attempted sarin gas attacks on the Tokyo subways. A few years down the line, the Resident Evil films, of which there were 6, would rake in between $100 and $300 million each, the next one always making more than the last. Meanwhile, its small budget cousin, 28 Days Later, was well received by critics and audiences alike, and was said to breathe new life into the genre, which remained popular throughout the 2000s. As time has gone on, biozombies have shifted away from being an accident of science to being more of a fluke of nature, like in World War Z, or that one M. Night Shyamalan movie nobody liked.
Mari mentioned the Zombie Survival Guide. I did read that book. It was pretty cool.
Like, everyone I knew had it in high school.
Do you guys have a zombie survival plan? Mine takes pretty heavily from the book. You basically want to get on a boat and find something that has a library, possibly a prison, something that has books, a kitchen, a way to grow food, and a way to keep people out. That's basically what you need. They said it's you gotta have a library, because if you don't know something, you can teach yourself.
Man, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah, like when this happens, if it ever does, like it's gonna be knowledge is power again. Like if society collapses, because like assault rifles don't have unlimited ammo. They're heavy. They're loud. You don't know if the zombies are gonna be like sound sensitive, depending on what type they are, especially. You know, not everything in the modern age will work in the zombie age. I agree. I think a boat is probably the best option, even if it's out of gas, you know, just so you can sleep offshore instead of on land where like a bunch of zombies can just fuck you up while you're resting.
You know what's funny too? In Minecraft, if you put a bunch of boats around you, the zombies will just get into them.
It's true.
So it's a good way to protect yourself is to always have a boat.
I think my weapon of choice would be a machete.
I don't know. I'd want something that's like kind of a little bit more long distance. Like a bow and arrow would be a really good idea because it doesn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah, but you run out of arrows.
How about a giant stick?
I have learned from having zombie dreams that a hammer is actually not a very good zombie weapon.
No, it's short distance.
It gets stuck in the head. Dude, this happens every time I have a zombie nightmare.
I'm thinking like a lance or a spear would work for me.
Right? Because you don't want to get the blood on you.
Or even better, harpoon would be rad.
You know, when I was living in an apartment building, I had a zombie plan for that specific apartment. I end up having a zombie plan for every place I live. But for this apartment, I had decided that I was going to create a bottleneck into the next apartment over so that the zombies could be funneled and stabbed. I actually had a naginata at the time. So I was like, you just break down a portion of the wall enough so that they can't fully get through, but you can poke at them. And then you honeycomb the whole building. You take over all the supplies. You have a secure entire complex. That was my plan at the time.
I think 28 Days Later had the right idea, putting the big panes of plastic, like the tarps up, so they could catch moisture into like buckets so they'd have fresh water to drink.
Oh, yeah.
I actually learned way back in Sea Cadets that you can tie plastic bags onto trees and it will catch the moisture that is expressed out of the leaves, fresh water.
If possible, I would want one of those LRADs, those audio weapons that would just like gooify any corpse that was decomposing in that direction. Also, for the lulz, I would probably hold up in a carnival place or a theme park, because then like killing zombies with like rides would be dope. You're just at the control panel. Like I'd be having a blast up on the Ferris wheel. Of course, I'd have like a, vest of dynamite around myself ready to go should it get to that point.
And that way, if it does get to that point, you would attract all the zombies to that explosion. And you might even save some people who were like, hiding up in trees kind of thing.
Hiding up in trees.
That's what they tell you to do in that stupid book.
Well, listen, if you don't have anything else to eat, you can just eat pine needles and resin and get really, really skinny. And then when you die, you become a mummy, and you can use your Buddha mind to convert the zombies back into good little Buddhists.
You could probably talk their language in the afterlife, so they might listen. They're just all doing yoga out on the farm fields, like doing work for you.
You just have to get them to suck your tongue first. And if you'd like to hear the rest of the show, where we talk about actual Haitian zombies from real life, zombie genes, what happens when you die, toxins from pufferfish, datura, Canadian zombie deer, brain parasites, can't forget those,
Some crazy-ass drugs with gnarly side effects.
and last but not least, mental illnesses that could turn you into a zombie. Please go to www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only get you access to this extended episode, but all of our extended episodes going back to before the apocalypse. I'll send you the secret keys to our Discord server and a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our big Bunfament cover art at no additional cost to you. Until then, thank you everybody, eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew.